Okay, we've got Patricia on the line from Oaxaca. Patricia asks, what happens if my business loses money? Okay, that's a great question. So, if your business loses money, then that means you have lost money. It doesn't mean that you are going to not be able to renew your visa. The E2 visa is renewable depending upon what country the applicant is from, anywhere from 2 years to 5 years. When you go in for your renewal, the most important criteria is that you can prove that the business is in fact real and operating. You are working towards the financial plans and goals that you have stated in your 5 year business plan. And, what's important is that any alternative outcomes or results that your business may have experienced, you're able to substantiate that by explaining the circumstances, as long as they're legitimate. For example, we have a lot of clients that started their business prior to COVID, and they had very aspirational plans to hire and to grow their business, and unfortunately with COVID that just didn't happen. But we've seen a very understanding for those circumstances, and things change. The 5 year plan and a E2 business plan that's exactly what it is. It's a plan, and a lot of things can happen along the way. You may decide that, hey, I did this business A, but in the process of setting up that business, or clients that I met this other person, and they had a great idea and we connected, and we're going to start this other business, and that's okay. The only difference with an E2 when you come up for renewal is that you're going to have to present that new business plan versus, okay, here's the business I said I was going to do. Here are the results. Please renew my visa. So that's kind of the difference. Okay, next question. Can I have partners in my business for the E2? So the short answer is yes. What's important for the E2 criteria to be met regarding ownership as that is the applicant needs to have maintaining control. That means that the applicant is the decision maker. The shares or the ownership is not diluted by more than 50%. Now, there is an exception, if you will, to that two applicants can go in to one E2 company, 50% and 50%. The important component of that is that the roles are clearly defined of what each individual does differently than the other. Now, we've had approval rates for co-CEOs, but we've also had to then separate out, okay, other than co-CEO, I have, one person one applicant that is doing the financials, chief financial officer, and a chief marketing officer, or a chief commercial officer, or or like that. So that's where we have to just distinguish between the two. Now, you can have multiple minority partners in a business in so long as the principal applicant owns at least 50% and maintains a controlling interest in the company. So the decision maker who's in charge. And we have to spell that out very clearly in the business plan. Okay, great. Now we have Julia from Puerto Vallarta, one of my favorite places. Do I need prior business experience? So generally, if you are going to be a CEO of a new business, you do need some sort of experience. That's why it's very important when we begin our discovery process and we start the sort of exploration with our clients about what kind of business they're going to start. You do have to have a level of knowledge either within the industry, or you have a proven track record managing a company. It's kind of hard to justify being a CEO of a U.S. company if you have no experience. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have run a major corporation. Let's say you have a hobby, like let's say you like to do, a wedding planner or a floral arrangement or, something like that that's been a hobby and you have management experience in other areas. That's great because we create the narrative that, hey, I've done business in this company for this many years. I love doing floral arrangements and I want to kind of incorporate the two. So that is the ideal scenario. But your background and your experience will impact the ability for you to get approved. Great. Next question from Jose in Guadalajara. Can my spouse work on the U.S. or in the U.S. on E2 visa? Yes. And they also get automatic work authorization as soon as the applicant, the principal applicant, have your E2 approval. And what's really important after your approval for the E2 is that you and your spouse get your social security numbers and you begin to build your credit history in the US and even for your kids as well. If you plan on potentially staying in the US for a longer period, although keep in mind that the E2 is a non-immigrant visa, you are signing documentation with intent to depart after the project, remembering that that visa is renewable in perpetuity. And so long as you continue to operate that business that meets the criteria of the principal operations that you stated would occur. Great. Thank you. Next question. All right. Javier from Monterrey. What should I know before my visa interview? So that is a very good question. And excuse me. Okay, we can take one more question because our time is running out. But the question was from Javier, and what should I know before my visa interview? So this is really important. And actually, the interview is probably the easiest part of this whole process. Although a lot of our clients that get very nervous about the interview, understandably, because this is like kind of the moment of truth. But the the questions are simple in the interview. How many employees are you going to hire in the first year? What are your revenues going to be in the first year? What's your profit going to look like in the first year? How much are you going to pay yourself in the first year? What kind of business is it that you're doing? What is your business? And guess what? That's pretty much it. It's important to know your plan. It's important that you are able to communicate your plan. But at the end of the day, you're the CEO of this company and it's your business. So, you know, that's what we help you build. That's what we partner with to build. And, by the end of the process, you're already the master because it's your business. And so there's really nothing to worry about in that interview. And we'll walk you through all the important points before the interview. That's part of, what we do. But at the end of the day, it's really a technicality because you're the CEO of your company, of your business. And that's all the officer wants to know when you go in to have your interview, which may take like, 5 to 7 minutes. Although I will say, with the new administration, there has been a heightened level of scrutiny, mainly as it applies to the real and operating component of the E2. And that just means, hey, like, what efforts have you made to have this company be operating? You know, for example, if you've got a chiropractic clinic or a yogurt store or a coffee shop, have you hired a commercial real estate advisor? Are you actively looking for properties? Have you made the investment, not only investment, financial investment, but also the time to obtain the proper licenses or credentials? or validations. Most of the time for professional licenses, you can't get that license until you have a social security number, and you don't get that social security number until the